I thought hiring a local guide in the Smoky Mountains would make our trip safer. Instead, it turned into the most terrifying mistake of my life, and I'm still dealing with the consequences today. So this happened last summer, when me and 3 friends decided to do a hiking trip near Gatlinburg, Tennessee. We're all from Phoenix, Arizona, and none of us really knew the area that well. My friend Callum found this guy online who advertised himself as a mountain guide. The reviews looked good enough, and the price was reasonable. His name was Derek. At least, that's what he told us. We met him at the trailhead around 8 in the morning. He was probably in his 40s, wearing this faded green jacket and boots that looked like they'd seen 1,000 trails. Really cheerful guy, honestly. He joked around with us, asked about our trip, told us stories about the local wildlife. My friend Sienna even said she felt better having him there because the forest looked way bigger in person than on Google Maps. Derek said he knew a shortcut that only locals used, said it would cut 2 hours off our hike and take us to this amazing lookout point that tourists never got to see. We were excited. I mean, who doesn't want the insider experience, right? I remember Callum was wearing this ridiculous bucket hat he bought at a gas station, and Derek kept making jokes about it. Everything felt normal. The trail started out fine, but after maybe an hour, things got narrower. We were pushing through these thick rhododendron bushes, and the path turned into what looked like an old logging road. I pulled out my phone to check the map, but the trail we were on didn't show up anywhere. I mentioned it to Derek, and he just laughed and said these old routes never made it onto digital maps. He said the Forestry Service didn't update them because they wanted to keep them quiet. That should have been a red flag, but he said it so casually, like it was no big deal. Around noon, Derek stopped and looked at his watch. He said we were running a little behind schedule. Then he suggested we leave our main backpacks at this bend in the trail and just carry water for the summit push. He said the final climb was steep and it would be easier without the weight. My friend Bridger hesitated, but the rest of us agreed. I left my pack propped against a tree with my wallet still inside. Derek marked the spot with this weird stack of rocks. 2 hours later, we're scrambling up this rocky slope, and Derek pulls out this small tarp from his bag. He stops everyone and says he wants to collect our phones to prevent them from falling out during the climb. He said he'd seen too many tourists lose expensive phones on steep sections like this. It made sense at the time. He'd been so helpful and friendly all day. Sienna handed hers over first, then Callum, then Bridger, then me. Derek wrapped them in the tarp and stuffed it in his jacket pocket. The view at the top was actually incredible. You could see the mountains rolling out in every direction, covered in that blue haze the Smokies are famous for. We took pictures with Derek's phone, and he seemed genuinely happy for us. We rested for maybe 20 minutes, ate some snacks, and then started heading back down. That's when everything changed. When we got back to where we'd left our packs, the trail looked different. There was this gate of thorned branches pushed across the path like someone had deliberately blocked it. Derek's whole face changed. His smile just sort of faded and he looked tired. Annoyed even. He said, real casual, that he had bad news. Said he'd accidentally dropped all our phones into a gully while we were at the summit. Said it was a mistake, but now we owed him for the replacements. He wanted cash. Right there. He said if we didn't pay, we'd have to wait for rescue, and that could take days because we were off the official trails. None of us had cash. Our wallets were in the backpacks, but he was standing between us and them. Bridger tried to argue with him, but Derek just shrugged and said we were in an unfamiliar county with no phones, no way to contact anyone, and nobody knew exactly where we were. He wasn't yelling or threatening us. That's what made it so creepy. He was just stating facts like he'd done this before. We ended up bargaining with him. Gave him some cash Sienna had in her pocket, maybe $60. He moved the branches and let us get our packs, but he wouldn't give the phones back. Said they were already gone anyway. Then he just walked ahead of us on the trail, whistling. We followed him for miles. Nobody talked. When we finally got back to a main road, Derek pointed toward town and disappeared into the forest. Just like that. Gone. The next day, A hiker we met at a diner overheard us talking about what happened. She said Derek, if that was even his real name, had run similar schemes before. Said he used routes that weren't on maps to isolate tourists and then extort them. She said people had reported him, but he always vanished before anyone could do anything. When I checked my bank account 2 days later, my credit card had been charged at some roadside ATM near Sevierville. The amount matched cash Derek had mentioned during our negotiation. Same thing happened to Callum and Bridger. We reported everything to a ranger station, but they said there weren't enough records to prosecute anyone. The ranger told us, pretty bluntly, that the real problem was we'd trusted someone who knew those woods way better than we ever would. I still think about that day. About how normal everything felt until it wasn't. How easy it was for one guy to completely control 4 people just by knowing the terrain. We never got our phones back. I still wonder if he actually dropped them, or if that was just part of the story he tells everyone. I never imagined a quick trip to Atlanta would scar me for life. Missing my flight led me to a shady hostel downtown, where security cameras sounded safe. But what I found hidden there turned my stay into a real-life horror, with eyes watching every move I made. Hey, my name's Kieran Voss. I'm just a regular guy from Ohio, you know? I work at a warehouse, packing boxes all day. Last year I saved up for a vacation to see some friends in Florida. Nothing fancy. But on the way, my connecting flight out of Atlanta got delayed big time because of some storm. By the time I landed, it was gone. I was stuck overnight, maybe 2 days. No big deal, right? I pulled out my phone and searched for the cheapest place to crash. Found this hostel called the Urban Rest, right in the heart of downtown Atlanta. It was like $20 a night, and the listing said, "Security cameras for your peace of mind." I thought, cool, at least it's safe. I booked it quick, grabbed my backpack, and took a bus over. When I got there, it was already dark. The building looked old, like one of those brick places from the 70s with a neon sign flickering a bit. The front desk was run by this older guy, maybe in his 60s. His name tag said Mr. Harlan. He had this weird smile, too wide, like he was trying too hard. "Welcome, Kieran," he said, checking my ID. "You're in luck." I got the smallest private room left. It's cozy, so you'll feel real safe in there. He kept going on about how proud he was of the place. "We got cameras everywhere, buddy." No funny business here. I nodded, tired from the travel. He handed me the key and a form to sign. It was this long paper, but the print was tiny. I skimmed it. Something about liability and no refunds. Whatever, I just wanted to sleep. My room was on the 3rd floor, number 3. Small, yeah. Bed, a shelf, tiny bathroom with a shower. I remember the walls were this faded yellow, and the floor had these old tiles that squeaked when I stepped wrong. Kinda like how my grandma's porch creaks when the wind hits it back home. I unpacked a little, ate a sandwich I'd bought at the airport. It was stale, by the way, with too much mayo, and crashed early. First night was okay. Woke up to city noise, horns and stuff. Went out for coffee at a nearby diner where the waitress chatted about how Atlanta traffic sucks this time of year. Normal day. Second night, though. That's when things felt off. Not right away. I was in the room charging my phone, and I heard this faint hum. Like a fan or something. Ignored it. Then, in the bathroom, I saw this subtle red glow under the door. Thought it was my imagination. Maybe the streetlight outside. I shrugged and went to bed, but around midnight, I couldn't sleep. Got up to use the hairdryer on the shelf. My hair was wet from a quick shower. Plugged it in, but when I unplugged it later, something fell. Clunk. A tiny camcorder, black and small, with a red light blinking. It had a sticker. Live stream ready. My heart skipped. What the hell? I picked it up, hands shaking a bit. It was warm, like it had been on. I turned it off quick. Then, stupid me, I started looking around. Opened the storage cabinet under the sink. There were these memory cards, stacked in a box. Dozens. Labeled with dates and Room 3, December 3rd, or whatever. I popped one into my laptop. Yeah, I travel with it for emails. Hours of footage. People asleep in the shower, undressing. Guests like me. Time-stamped. One clip showed a woman brushing her teeth, unaware. Another, a guy changing clothes. It went back months. I felt sick. Who does this? I sat there, staring, hesitated. Should I call the cops? But it was late, and my phone signal was crappy in the room. Flawed thinking, I know. I could have gone outside. Instead, I went downstairs to confront Mr. Harlan. He was at the desk, reading a newspaper. "Hey," I said, voice low. "What's this?" I showed him the camcorder. He looked up, then laughed. This deep, creepy chuckle. "Oh, that? Some collectors pay well for real footage, son. Guests sign the form. It's all legal." I blinked. "What form?" He pulled out a copy. Tiny print at the bottom. Something vague about monitoring for security and possible sharing. Bullshit. I hadn't read it close. "You can't do this," I muttered. He just shrugged. "People love the real stuff. Keeps the lights on." I backed away, freaked. Grabbed the cards from my room, stuffed them in my bag, copied files to an email draft on my laptop, sent it to myself as backup. Thought I'd report it later, but I couldn't stay. It was 3 a.m. I snuck out, heading for the bus station a few blocks away. Streets were empty, misty from earlier rain. Every payphone I tried, out of order. Wires cut or something. Public terminals at a corner kiosk. Screen cracked, but one worked sorta. No, wait, first two were dead. Paranoia hit. Then I saw a van, white, following slow. 2 blocks, headlights dim. I ducked into a 24-hour laundromat, heart pounding, smelled like detergent and old socks. A lady was folding clothes, humming. I used their beat-up computer terminal, sent the email draft while holding a sock. Yeah, a random sock from the lost bin over my phone camera. Dumb, but I thought, what if they're watching back? Got to the bus station finally, took the first one out, to the airport. But by morning, at the US Embassy, no, in Atlanta, it's a consulate or something, but I went to the police first. They listened, took the cards, said they'd investigate, but half the footage was already online. Some dark forum selling clips, needed special software to access. I tried later, couldn't. And the hostel? Closed overnight. Mr. Harlan vanished. Sign said, temporarily shut. Police said they'd never heard of a live streaming ring like this in Atlanta hotels. Until my evidence popped up in other complaints, similar stories from places in Chicago, New York. Same setup. Now back home, I check every hotel room for cameras. That hum, I hear it sometimes, even in my apartment. The floor here creaks when my neighbor walks heavy at night. Reminds me of those tiles and those videos. They had my face in one, from the first night. Asleep, vulnerable. Who bought it? I don't know. Leaves me wondering, what if it's still out there, watching? I thought booking the cheapest hostel in Denver would just mean bad Wi-Fi and lumpy pillows. I didn't know I'd become part of someone's sick collection, watched and recorded while I slept. Look, I'm not the type to tell crazy stories or make stuff up for attention. My name's Jenna, I'm 26, and I work in data entry back in Phoenix. This happened last February when I was trying to visit my cousin in Boulder for her birthday weekend. The whole thing started because I'm cheap. I missed my connecting flight at Denver International because I stopped for coffee and lost track of time. Stupid, I know. The next flight wasn't until 2 days later, and hotels near the airport were like $200 a night. So I went online and found this hostel downtown called the Alpine Rest. It was $40 a night and had decent reviews. The listing even said 24-hour security cameras for guest safety, which made me feel better about staying alone. I got there around 9 at night. The building was older, kind of run down, but not terrible, just worn out. The guy at the front desk was probably in his 60s, gray hair, thick glasses. His name tag said Walter. He seemed really excited to have a guest, which I thought was weird for a Friday night. He kept talking about how safe the place was and how the cameras watch everything. "I'm going to put you in room 3, he said, smiling too much. "It's our smallest private room, but you'll feel safe there." Nice and cozy. I take care of my guests. The room was tiny, like barely fit a single bed and a small bathroom, but it had a lock and seemed clean enough. I dumped my bag, took a shower, and crashed. I was exhausted. The first night was fine. Nothing weird happened. The second day I walked around Denver, saw some tourist stuff, came back around 10. Walter was still at the desk. Does this guy ever go home? I remember thinking that, but didn't say anything. I grabbed some snacks from a vending machine that kept spitting out the wrong change and went to my room. That night, I noticed something strange. I was brushing my teeth around midnight when I saw this faint red glow coming from under the bathroom door, just a tiny dot of light. I thought maybe it was some electrical thing or a smoke detector, but it bothered me. I opened the door and the light disappeared. I couldn't sleep well. Kept thinking about that red light. Around 3 in the morning, I got up to pee and saw it again. This time, I really looked around the bathroom. There was a shelf above the toilet with a hairdryer plugged into the wall. The hostel provided it, I guess. I unplugged it because the red light seemed to be coming from that area. When I yanked the cord, something small and black fell from the shelf and hit the floor. A camera. A tiny fucking camera with a lens pointing right at the shower. And there was a sticker on it that said, "Live," with a website URL I didn't recognize. My heart started beating so fast I thought I'd pass out. I checked the whole room. Found another camera hidden in a smoke detector above the bed. This one had a memory card slot. I went to the storage cabinet in the hallway, the one that said "staff only" but wasn't locked. Inside were dozens of memory cards in plastic bags. Each one had a label. Room 3, December 3rd. Room 3, December 8th. Room 5, November 21st. Different rooms, different dates, going back months. I took one card and put it in my laptop. The footage made me sick. Hours and hours of people sleeping, getting dressed, taking showers, everything. All these random people who had no idea they were being recorded. Some of the files had weird titles like buyer request and premium content. I grabbed all the memory cards I could carry and went downstairs. Walter was still there, reading a newspaper. "What the hell is this?" I showed him the camera. He didn't even look surprised. He actually laughed, put down his newspaper and smiled at me like I was being silly. "Some collectors pay very well for real footage," he said. Real casual, like he was talking about the weather. "You signed the liability form when you checked in. It's all legal. I remembered signing something but barely looked at it. Just some paper with tiny print about damages and house rules. Nothing about cameras." "You're disgusting," I said. I grabbed the cards and ran out. It was 3:30 in the morning. I needed to get to the police or the embassy or somewhere safe, but my phone was almost dead, and I didn't know Denver well. I tried using a payphone near a gas station, but it was out of order. Tried another one 2 blocks away. Also broken. What are the odds? Then I noticed a white van following me, moving slow, staying about half a block behind. Every time I turned, it turned. I ducked into a 24-hour laundromat and hid between the machines. There was an old computer terminal in the corner that customers could use. The screen was cracked, but it worked. I logged into my email and uploaded all the footage I could. Sent it to myself, my cousin, even my mom. Just in case. I kept a sock over my phone camera the whole time. Paranoid, maybe, but I wasn't taking chances. By morning, I made it to the embassy and filed a report. But when police went to check the hostel, it was already closed, completely empty. Walter was gone. No forwarding address, no nothing. Later, I found out the footage was being sold on some dark web forum. Other people started coming forward with complaints about different hotels in Denver and Colorado Springs. My evidence helped connect like 15 cases. But here's what keeps me up at night. I still get emails sometimes. Automated messages from accounts I don't recognize. They're always the same. Thanks for your contribution, with a winking emoji. I don't stay in hostels anymore. Hell, I barely travel. And I cover every camera in my apartment with tape. You never really know who's watching.